of Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. A lot of good feedback about the episode. The premiere involved Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch. I know that's not a series that's for you. I know you don't like it as a former worker. I understand your reservations about what the series represents and what it emboldens in marks and in fans online. I got to tell you, I watched it twice. It was tough to watch, as a Jersey guy, hearing about Chris Candido and growing up here. Something I didn't know either, when he passed away, it was at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital in New Brunswick, which I didn't know. But watching that episode, man, seeing people like Jim Cornette, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Lance Storm get as emotional as they got, which you rarely ever see them get in shoot interviews or segments in general. Just watching the life story of Chris and Tammy from high school sweethearts to Chris being such a devoted fan to like lying to his parents and taking a bus from New Jersey to Brooklyn to work as early. I think he was like 15, 16 years old.
14,
excuse me. And how devoted he was to the business, and, obviously worked independent scenes, worked in Smoky Mountain, where, obviously Cornette, and saw something in him and Tammy to make it to the WWF at the time as the Body Donnas, where, again, let's be honest, in the early to mid 90s, everything was character or some occupation. You had a repo man, you had a garbage man, you had
a goon, you had a man Mountain Rock,
you had a guitar player, and in this case, you had two guys that were fitness gurus, a guy and a girl. You look at Chris Candido's ascension to WWF. Obviously, some marks, on Twitter right after the episode aired were like, hey, I almost forgot how much I hated Shawn Michaels and Paul Heyman. Well, guess what? This episode made me rethink and say, yeah, I hate Shawn Michaels for what he did to him. It wasn't enough to steal his girl, but to kind of push him down in the mid card and, tell Vince, hey, yeah, let's gotta squash this guy. Unfortunately, some marks will take that, whether it's scripture or not, we don't know. We knew that eventually Tammy would become the bigger star of the pair, which she did mid to late 90s, right? It was not, not fiber optic internet. It was still dial up in some cases, what was considered high speed for its time. AOL, the most downloaded girl, on the internet until Sable came out on the scene. Bro, it was a sad episode. And for a guy that eventually got his life together after abusing drugs and pills and injuries, to meet his end, after going to TNA in good shape with a good attitude again, to suffer that injury and then to get surgery and then to, everything that happened to Chris Candido. It was a sad episode, man. And to think that Tammy, it just sounded like she still wasn't remorseful about what happened or the hand she had in his demise. And we all know about Tammy Sitch, 7 DUIs, now awaiting trial for vehicular homicide. It was a sad episode, man. It really, if you're a fan, it broke your heart.
I'm not a fan of Dark Side of the Ring. You pointed that out. There's a lot of reasons why. I think a lot of it too is kind of made to kind of slander and shit on WWE a lot, when the wrestling business as a whole has been fucking sleazy since God was a boy. But I'm not gonna really talk too much about his passing and stuff like that. But Chris Candido was a really fucking cool dude. Tammy was really cool too. They were both really great with me and my cousin when we were kids, and we were, trying to learn about the business. And look, man, they could have told us to fuck off, really, Yeah. They could have told us to go away like they did to some other people. But the fact that Candido talked to us, the fact that Candido was cool with us, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were kids too, and we were really devoted to wrestle. I mean, my cousin and I used to take trains if we couldn't get rides. My mom hated the fact that I wrestled, but she would still drive me to some shows. Some shows were too far and stuff like that. But, I did everything I could do to try and go. And so did my cousin. And the fact that Candido saw that, I think he kind of really related to us in that sense. And he was just really cool with us. And, we saw some of the negative aspects, I think, of their relationship and how, toxic it could be. But overall, man, I think they were both important people to the history of the business. Obviously, you're gonna have the fucking the Sean stuff. I mean, everybody, I don't know if this is news or not, but Sean wasn't a nice guy in the '90s, and everybody was rolling with Soma, Somas. They were taking Somas, and everybody was getting high and everybody was messed up, man. But for me, regardless of what was said on the show, Chris Candido will always be remembered, by me personally as an amazing worker, a great person, and somebody who contributed very positively to pro wrestling. It's an unfortunate tale for both sides.
No, it really is. And again, just to sort of round out, it will be 10 episodes in season 4. Coming up this Tuesday will be the story of Magnum TA, to be followed by Adrian Adonis, then to be followed by Doink the Clown. Subsequently, Matt Bourne, probably it'll center around, if not the character of Doink the Clown and what it represented. The Junkyard Dog, Marty Jannetty, Bam Bam Bigelow, another Jersey guy, Abdullah the Butcher, the disaster that was WCW Bash at the Beach in 2000. And I believe the season finale will be the Graham family. So haven't seen any numbers yet, ratings-wise, but you would think that, hey, this was probably going to get a good amount of interest into season 4 for Dark Side of the Ring. And if Vice, is looking to see whether or not a 5th season is justified, we're going to find out. There's some, again, coming up now, for example, Tuesday with Magnum TA. Big NWA fan growing up. Love Magnum TA. I think that, maybe someone won't say it out loud, but during that time period, yes, his motor vehicle accident was tragic. It wasn't due to any drugs or alcohol. It was just, Magnum was known to have a heavy foot and he loved to race, and it cost him his career. But I think also, too, we'll see if it's discussed and we'll see who is going to opine and contribute on the show. But Magnum was never going to get bigger than Dusty Rhodes and the Four Horsemen at that time in that company. Again, that's who they were. Dusty and Rick and Tully and Arn and Ole, and Magnum was never going to get bigger than them. And I know they were trying to groom him to be the next world champion. He was never going to get bigger than those stars in that company at the time. So we'll see. We'll see what Magnum's episode's about. I know
it's a good thing nobody under 45 fucking cares. Right.
Well, there you go. Okay, there you go. Again, I know it's not a series for you, Pat, but I think it's a lot of these episodes, whether it's Bam Bam Bigelow or Marty Jannetty, maybe some cautionary tales. I think for anyone, I'll argue this. I think maybe one good component.
I think it's fucking old news for anybody that's into wrestling. And if you're a fucking mark and you're watching that stuff, then you really don't know wrestling. Because this stuff's been around forever. And I just think it's all slanted to kind of just shit on WWE, shit on Vince particularly, and it's just, again, I'm not a fan of it. And it emboldens marks to think that they know more than people who've been in the business. It gives them the terminology to use all wrong. Sure. And I'm just not a fan of it. That's it.
I mean, listen, fair points. What I would argue maybe is, maybe you'll be on board with this. If anything, throughout the seasons, I think that there's maybe in the air, maybe a little bit of a cautionary aroma to people that maybe either want to get into the business or learn about the business, or young guys and girls that are on the independent scene. Maybe if anything else, these episodes can be, hey, maybe a cautionary tale and maybe a word to the wise. Hey, maybe you want to steer clear of certain things. You're right. The business is what it is. It's been like that for almost 100 years. When you think about, going back to really at the start of the National Wrestling Alliance, right? The oldest governing body in professional wrestling. Maybe if anything, dude, it might just be a helpful cautionary tale to some people about the business and people that are looking to get into it. Maybe some things to avoid. What do you think?
I think do your research, bro. That's what I think. I think if you're going to get into wrestling, do your fucking research. Don't let fucking Dark Side of the Ring tell you what it's about. Read a fucking book.
Sure.
Go outside. Like Filthy Brooks says, touch grass,
Let's move on to our main event topic this week, man.